We're here now. That's all that matters.
That's right. That's right. How's your day been today?
Pretty good. I'm dealing with roof leaks and stuff like that. Just
Oh,
had a
yeah.
roofer over. Hey, that happens.
Yeah. And you guys kind of get a decent amount of rain over there.
We had a lot. That's what happened. We had a crazy amount of rain the last couple of weeks and like a lot really fast.
Mhm.
Like so that's what happens, you know.
Hopefully it gets fixed up quickly.
Yeah, I'm trying, I try to do the building maintenance now and get it ready for the winter. The
Smart.
general thing is that when it starts to get nasty out, everybody's busy and they can't get on the roofs.
Right.
I wouldn't
Right.
want to be up there and with snow and ice, and so get it done now and we're
Right.
good.
Right. So has it been cooler temperatures since it has been raining?
Yes, it broke the heat. It's really nice. It's beautiful here today. I mean, after we're done, I'm gonna my niece is a lifeguard at a local beach. I'll take a ride down there and hang out with her for a little bit, take a
Oh,
swim.
oh, that sounds perfect. That sounds like a perfect day. Yeah,
Yeah.
you wanted it
So,
cool outside, not inside.
yeah. It's this is a nice time of the year in Jersey, like winding out the summer into like September and October are honestly my favorite months.
Yeah.
Especially here. Where are you located?
I'm in Idaho, so it's about the same here. We have
Oh,
pretty
right.
similar weather.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You can get
Hmm.
out, it's not too hot. And I don't like going to the beach when there's tons of people. I never go on a weekend.
Right.
It's always like early week. Mondays is our day.
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday's the best day to go out and enjoy what we have to offer as a state. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, is that one of the things that you do outside of music then is go swim in the ocean?
I love the ocean.
Yeah.
I love I love where I'm from.
Yeah.
I'm born and bred in Jersey. I've traveled a lot. I lived in New York for years. I lived in California for a few, and there's something about where we actually are from, where Monster Magnet is actually from. Dave lives in the same house his whole life. You know what I mean? Like we have a lot right here. Number one, we're very close to airports. We
Hmm.
have New York right up the road, an hour
Hmm.
away. I can literally leave and get in my car and drive 20 minutes one way. It looks like I'm in the middle of nowhere, like woods and things and beautiful stuff, or 20 minutes the other way and be on a beach.
Oh, wow.
A
Yeah.
really, really nice beaches, I would have to drive a half hour south and it's like more chill, but yeah, it's all right here and I love it. I love it.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah,
So the middle of nowhere where you said you're like in a bunch of trees and stuff, do you have like rivers and stuff that are around that area too if you go camping?
that's more woodsy. There are places like that with
Okay.
rivers and things and stuff like that. That's about like where the Delaware Water Gap, where people are really into camping and the rivers and rafting. That's all there. It's about a 40-minute drive if you want to
Oh,
do
that's
that.
not bad.
So I'm saying like it's like horse farms and things like that. And you're seeing the country. It's like New Jersey flies under the radar, and we like it that way.
You're right. No,
Like,
definitely.
the whole line is like being in New York. You're like, go back to Jersey. We're like, yeah, I'm going back to Jersey in my car. You can live in this hot tar, shoebox life if that's what you choose to do.
Oh,
And that's
right.
fine. I'm going to my car. I'm happily going back to Jersey.
Yeah. Well, and you guys have a pretty strong musical presence too. I mean, I think people recognize that musically how strong Jersey has been. But it's like other than that, it's yeah, like you said, flies under the radar, doesn't really get like a second thought, you know?
Well, there's a lot that when it's funny you brought that up because I was talking with some friends just doing another project here in my studio, and we were talking about that the other night about how when you think of New Jersey, the first thing that's going to come to mind is Springsteen, of course, right? Like Bruce Springsteen's from right down the road. Then you have Bon Jovi. Then you have all this other stuff. But then you have an underground element that happened here. I mean, look at Metallica just played MetLife Stadium, and they were talking about how, their first records were put out by a guy from New Jersey, Johnny Z, with Megaforce. That was Old Bridge, New Jersey, the Old Bridge Metal Militia, and like it's no news. It's no, new news, but that was a great time here. And then we had a lot of underground punk stuff. We had all these little bars that you could play. and all this different stuff that was going on because we were like kind of like this offshoot from New York, you know?
Right.
I mean, we had Convention Hall, like one of the famous from 1975, one of the authorized Black Sabbath bootlegs is from Convention Hall right before Sabotage
Mhm.
came out. I was at that show, you know. The Sunshine Inn, the Stooges played there. There are all these great things about Asbury Park. Passaic had the Capitol Theater. We had a lot of great venues, so it made sense that a really cool music scene bubbled here in New Jersey.
Mhm. So how would you say it is now compared to how it was back then? I mean, music in general has changed significantly.
Well, again, I'm kind of like a creature of habit. I don't really look for too much new stuff. I listen to what I listen to and I like what I like.
Mhm.
Um, that being said, my nephew played at an Elks Club last night with his first band, and I'm seeing kids like in this backyard mosh pitting and going crazy, and they're playing original songs as well as some cover songs and three different genres of music, like alternative, more heavy stuff, some kind of hardcore stuff. And they're teenage kids out there still wanting to do this. And that's what makes me happy. I don't think the attitude hasn't changed all that much. And that's what makes me happy. And I don't really get caught up in genres of music. I mean, I'll
Mhm.
listen to something that, like, wow, it catches my ear. I'll put it on, I'll get obsessed with it for 2 months, and I'll probably never listen to it again. Or I will dig really deep and find things that kind of strike me. One of my friends, hey, have you heard this? This was released in like 66, or you know what I mean? Like I'm a big fan, and Dave is a really big fan of like garage rock stuff from like the 60s that the whole British invasion kind of
Mhm.
influenced. And these bands only did a couple of 45s. They were all like there may be they were like all scattered through the country, you know what I'm saying? And like so they had these little regional hits that were on radio stations, but like that was very short lived. And then you fast forward to like, I'm really into this like African garage rock called Zamrock that was around in the 70s in Zimbabwe that was
Oh,
influenced by the garage rock stuff. And there was Japanese stuff. So I search things out. But what the main question is that like, I am not one of these guys in my age bracket with like, oh, we had it better. The music was so much better. Give the kids a fucking chance,
yeah.
man. Like a lot of kids, like I think, like I was never a big fan of new metal. I
Mhm.
just didn't get it. I did
Mhm.
not understand it. I didn't get it lyrically. It just was not my flavor,
Mhm.
right? Like apples and oranges, right?
For
So
sure.
but I like the attitude of it, and guys were doing their thing. So who cares if I like it or not? I always love I like the creative arts, whether it's
Mm.
painting, whether it's like to me, like the kid, it reminds me of myself who like not sports culture, like for a lack of better things, is that like for a kid who's sitting in the back of a classroom doodling on his notebook, back in the 70s, we didn't realize that that was like a really talented kid who should be nurtured and should be
Mhm.
driven to do like find it. Back then, we didn't have the knowledge that we have now. So I'm really into the fact that even some of the school systems, especially what I know about is locally, that kids who are like that are pushed to find what they love to do
Yeah.
and not be outcasts. And like the only drawback that I see from some of it is these music schools, like the school of rock mentality,
Mm.
where these parents have turned music into their sports. And it's
Yeah.
about parents
Mhm.
wanting to see their kid do something instead of like,
The kid's
okay,
passion.
I'm going to nurture you and let you find what you want to do. And
Mhm.
I just see some of that. They have these shows and, eh, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. And
Absolutely. Absolutely, and I 100% agree. 100%. My son did the swim team last year. Really enjoyed it, but this year he's like, it's just not something I'm passionate about. It's not something I really want to do again. And I said, that's fine. Figure out what you are passionate about. And it has been guitar for the last couple of years, even more intensely than it was before. And I'm all about it. He's going to be doing a music theory class this year in high school, and I love it. I'm so
that's
proud of
great.
him.
How old?
He's 15.
That's great. That's around the time my nephew started at like 14. He started diddling around, and Uncle Phil had to be on the side. Here's a pack of strings. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, let them find it. That's the best way. And he was involved with one of
Yes.
his music schools for about 6 months. And he came to
Oh.
me and he said, I think I want to stop going there.
Mhm.
And I'm like, why? He goes, because parents are telling us what songs they want to hear, and it's about them and not what we want to play. And I
Mm,
said, well, you got to understand, when I was a kid, we all got in a room and decided what we wanted to do, and the parents
mhm,
weren't involved.
mhm,
And he wanted to play music for his friends and bubble it up. And so I see what that generation like. So I get enthused with that. Like I want to like encourage people to find what they want to find creatively, and that's a good thing. And we're seeing this day and age, it's like, look at, we all know, you follow the news and you follow stuff. It's like, with what's going on, and I only focus on America, like with mental health and addictions and things and stuff. It's known that like music and creative arts, to use your mind, are helpful in other areas, and you might not be so academically inclined.
mhm.
So, and music therapies and things and stuff are really, really good. It's coming to the forefront with the whole mental health situation in our country.
Yep. I agree. I agree. Actually use music a lot in therapy. I don't know if you know, but I'm a therapist, and that's something I use a lot because it's interesting. Even just people who love music and listen to music, not necessarily play it. I'll say, tell me a song that you feel like really resonates with you, and it tells me so much about them without them having to tell
Oh,
me.
wow, that's great. Right. So I work in the field a little bit myself. I'm kind of like, I work with guys, mental health and drug addiction and stuff like that, but more, I tend to love the mental health side of it because I find it fascinating and interesting, and like, I help guy, of course it's a passion for me as well, but and also, it flies under the radar here. I'm not going to go on my beliefs and stuff, but like our country is devastated
Hmm.
with this opioid thing going on, and it's not slowing down. It's getting worse and worse. And I can take a drive, as I told you, all those beautiful places. I can take a drive another 45 minutes and show you complete devastation with people who are living on the street, who have no hope, who are just like gone. And like they're really the forgotten people in our country, and no one's giving them a shot.
Yep. I
It,
agree.
it, it burns me to my core.
Hmm. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's talk saying that we need to, help all people, and we need to protect these people, especially with the opioid crisis and mental health crisis. But there's no effort going into it. There's no money going into it.
Well, and the other thing is that there's the pockets of our country that are really neglected. Like you're from Iowa, right? West Virginia.
Idaho.
Idaho.
Hmm.
But even these places, like the middle of the country, is like we want to listen to everybody in these big cities, but these big cities are so damn expensive. The real people can't live there, so all these other people are just getting cast off.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Well, let's move to a
Yeah,
more positive subject.
yeah, let's do
Let's
it.
move
Let's go.
let's move to the album that's been out almost 3 weeks. 3 weeks
Yeah,
tomorrow.
it's exciting times for me.
Yes. How has that been releasing it? I'm assuming you started creating it or either during or maybe even before COVID. That's one of the amazing things that came out of the pandemic is all this great music.
Right. And so that is what happened. It started bubbling before the pandemic, and then little things I was doing here and there, and having a little nucleus of songs. And during the pandemic, it was really not, I would say late 2020. I listened to all this stuff and I was like, you know what? We had some things canceled. We can't get out there and play. It just wasn't the time. The timing wasn't right for us guys for Monster Magnet. So I was like, let me revisit this stuff. And it started to bubble. I got together with Bob Pantella, and he said he was game. And we kept it really simple. Let's just do 3 songs and see if we see something here and feel something here. And Bob was like, yeah, let's do it. I played him a few more and we got the record done. And then it was the process of like, okay. And then I can't would not have been able to do this without Wendigo Productions. And like the interesting thing about this is like there was no label involved. There
Mhm.
was no, it was more like my friends in New York, they work for this production company, Wendigo Productions, and they've helped bands and other artists and things like that do some things, and they've done a few records, and they said, hey, yeah, we'll do this with you, we'll help you out, and it just kind of snowballed, and before you know it, I had this record done. It was mixed and mastered, and I was like, okay, we got to get this out. And then so it's very exciting times, and like and me living in my little bubble, um, I was just happy to do it,
Mhm.
happy to, and it was kind of like my therapy, my mental
Yeah.
health thing. Just like I have this in me. It's time to finally do something, and I had the time to do it. And honestly, during the COVID time, I would just really wanted to shut everything down. The only thing that really makes me happy is this behind me, my amplifiers, my guitars, having my studio, and I could isolate. Again, I have family, friends, the whole bit. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like, and like, but my happy place is here creating. And I was like, okay. And it was a challenge to self-produce it and play all the guitar, bass, and vocals. Do you know what I mean? So I just took it upon myself to finish the damn thing and pushed hard. And here we have it. It finally came out. I was like, wow, it came out on the time where we had just done a really fun. Magnet hadn't played in 3 years, and finally things caught up to us. And finally kind of caught up to me where, wow, this is a real thing. Like when I got the shipment of vinyl, I was like, this is real now
So
because
with that,
it's because it's not like, okay, we do the streaming and all that, which is like, I find a lot of fun. I'm not a hater on that, but like, I'm a 70s kid. I'm a 60s and 70s kid. I like a record. I like a record cover. Here I am holding, like I see, but you like books, you know what I mean? It's real. It's a
yes.
real thing.
Mhm.
And so that made me really, really happy.
Yeah.
Just, I kind of just took that sigh, like, "Ah, I did it."
Yes, I love that. I love that. I grew up on my dad's record collection, so I have a very emotional connection to vinyl as well. It just sounds better. I don't know. Cassette tapes you just always had to worry about getting eaten, and
Ah,
CDs were fine, but we obviously probably didn't treat them super well because you're throwing around the car and
well,
scratches.
yeah, well, the other thing with vinyl is I know some heavy duty collectors and stuff like that, and I'm just a lover of this stuff, and there's something physical about it that I think it helps us turn our minds off and get into what we're listening to. It's a
Agreed.
physical aspect of like turning on your stereo, going over to your records, taking it out, dusting it off. It's a real thing instead of, I want to listen to my favorite song right now,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. I want to
Yeah.
make a playlist and I want Spotify is going to recommend me a bunch. That's awesome. But there's no physical attachment to that.
Yep.
And the physical connects the mental. So
Yeah.
then I'm able to just turn the phone off. I want to listen to Coltrane. I want to listen to Motorhead. I want to listen to, a record. Records also bring us to a spot in our lives where it was happy. It was a happy time where we were finding something. And like, I'll put on a certain record and it'll take me back to that place. And I'll be like, wow, I still love this.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's so incredible. And I mean, I think you're so right. There's so often that we can have back music just as like the background, like it's there, but it's not necessarily something you're super paying attention to. But yeah, when you put on an album, I think are already mentally in that space of where you're like, okay, I want to listen, like really truly listen, and it's a whole other experience. Plus, you get the whole experience of the whole album, which, you know, is something that is a lost art. And people put a lot of time and effort into not only the whole album, but how the songs are placed and, you know, in order and
Well, and I did that. I specifically, when I started to put the blocks of songs together, I thought of it in side A and side B. And
Mhm.
I was really knew I wanted to print vinyl and for myself. It's like for me. And I know about the guy who mastered it, Bill Skibby, who was very helpful with that, where he was telling me that, like, if you have too much information, it's not going to sound as good and all these things. So I thought about that experience of, like, that break from life on our day to day where everybody could use a half hour.
Yeah.
Everybody can use 45 minutes or 35. And that made when I found out about the minute limitation of where it starts to deteriorate on vinyl, it made sense to me
Mm, mhm.
that, like, it's like around 35, 40 minutes, above 40, you're starting to push it, right? I was like, wow, that really makes sense to me, that daily break of, like, take that time for
Mhm.
yourself so you can digest your day. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
forget it. I think we all get so caught up in wanting things so fast.
Mhm.
Where it's like time is our friend.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I think it's a form of meditation too. It's a form of giving like kind of the reboot on a computer or your phone, you know, it's not
Yeah,
working,
yeah,
you reboot it and it's working again. It can be a form of getting our brains to either be in that relaxed state again or where we're slowing down and appreciating things more.
yeah,
Um
yeah, yeah. And that
yeah.
was like, with the writing and the playing, it's like, as I was into it, I was like, I'm just gonna play guitar how I play guitar. I'm not somebody, like I said, I don't branch too far away from who I am. It's like what you see is what you get. Like I'm not all of a sudden be like, oh, I'm gonna write a sensitive ballad. That's not who I am. It's gonna come out in another way. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, God bless you. One of the other things, I tried to do something a little different. I want the guitars to be a little cleaner and blah, blah, blah. And I did this. I spent the whole day tracking. And my nephew told me, "Oh, I like that interview you did where you said you sounded like shit." And I'm like, that's kind of what happened. And I'm like, you know, I reflect on, I'm like, I'm glad I tried it. I wasn't happy with it. And I
Oh.
figure if I'm not happy with it, that, like, my fans are gonna, like, the people who, for what I'm known to do, which is, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I like dirty rock and roll. That's who I
Mhm.
am. And it's like, so what?
So
And
let's stick to the recipe I know and that I'm
so,
comfortable with.
and I have access to a lot of stuff here in the studio. And I was like, wow, that doesn't sound like me.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, turn it off, get the Les Paul, be fine, and turn it up. But so those are the kind of things when you're making a record, you have to try, like, you
Mhm.
have to try and push yourself in different. That was the hardest part about the self-production was pushing. I didn't have another Bob helped me a lot with that, but Bob was like, just leave it alone, just fine, and, like, pushing myself. I had to try all those things to get back to doing what I wanted to do, right?
Mhm.
I didn't know what I wanted to do at that particular
Right.
time. And then that was the good part about having the time to do it.
Mhm.
A lot of us, when we're making records, we're on a budget, we're on a clock, we're on a thing. You got the label breathing down your neck. You got to deliver it on this date, blah, 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 and you're rushing through things and you're settling for stuff. And, like, I didn't have that. So that
Mhm.
was a really great experience for me personally to
Mhm.
just have, I have to thank COVID
Yeah.
for giving that to me. And, like, I'm one of the people who embraced that time to really reflect on things in my life and will, like, look at. I tell my friends every day I can walk outside and get hit by lightning. I've had it. I love my life. I've done some fun things. I'm 61 years old now. I don't mind passing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've toured, I've done stuff. I play in a great band. I love my band. Dave is my lifelong friend. You know what I mean? What do I got to complain about? So that time that was given to us by whatever it may be, and I don't go down those paths, I was able to make a record that I
Mhm.
didn't really know that I always wanted to do. And as it started to snowball, I did it.
Mhm. And it turned out so great. Tell me about Face the Music. You do some different vocal styles in that one.
Oh, that was something that like I wrote quite a while ago, and I was like, fucking around with some cleaner, spacier stuff that like that's one of the things that I love about being in Monster Magnet. Like Dave and I are really into psychedelia and psychedelic music and the Hawkwinds and the Amanduls,
Mm.
like all this great music. And
Mhm.
and as I was winding down the hard rock thing, I was like, I have that little piece of music. I wonder if that'll fit on this record. And I broke it out and I was like, it's not bad. And I remember one of my favorite records is Do Re Mi by Hawkwind.
Mhm.
And it's no secret, Lemmy is my favorite. I can't, I mean, look at, it's like I probably live in a Motorhead shirt, from the first time I saw them and was a Hawkwind fan.
Mhm.
And the version of the Watcher on that record, where you have all this big, beautiful record that goes in all these different places. And I'm not saying this song is anything like that, but that's where the idea came from.
Inspiration.
The inspiration came from the way that record winds out. And I was like, this might be good to trail the record out like that. And it's like, and the lyric of Face the Music, it's kind of like a play on words where it's like, yes, we all have to face the music one day or another in our lives.
Mhm.
We have to sit back and look at it like, where am I exactly right now? And I got to me, that's facing the music. And to me, it was that reflection of like, you've heard all this like heavy stuff, wild, this, and I want to be like, okay, now you can like drift this out and have it be kind of trippy,
Mhm.
reflect on what you just listened to, and be
Mhm.
like, wow, where did this song come from? And almost like it's another side of me that again, Dave and I are really, really into, and like maybe there's something else like that coming. Maybe there's, I don't know, and just leave it up to the imagination of where the next phase, who knows? But that's where that came from.
I love it. Is that what are you planning on doing another solo album? I mean,
I
I know it's hard to
It's
probably
not,
determine that
it's
right
not
now.
a, it's not a plan of mine. Like my plan is to get together with Mr. Windorf and have some fun and like after this last tour and see what we want to do. And if something else comes out of that, I've never been at like again, like Monster Magnet has always for 25
5
years
years.
fulfilled my creative need or my
So
my
awesome.
my creative stuff. I love it. I love working with Dave. I love where his mind goes when we're recording together. So I've never been that guy in a band like, oh, I need to do a solo project or I need to have a side project to get my stuff fulfilled. It's fulfilled,
That's so
right?
amazing.
So I can, maybe there's maybe an EP or something a little different, something a little trippier. And, I'm working on some stuff right now. I just get my inspiration from other places. I'm working with this guy, Robert Ryan and Kevin Craig. They're like these local artists, and I'm recording their stuff. And it's really out there. It's all like Eastern Indian style, like mantras and things and stuff,
Mm.
and that's got me going. Like, that's fulfilling, like capturing them live and mixing it right now is fulfilling that side of things.
Mhm.
But there's this little spark in my brain that, like, man, maybe do something like this and like go into the studio and not think about it and just get a couple dudes and like so I'm that kind of guy where like I don't know where it's going to go, but my main focus is that we had such a fun, great tour with Bob, Garrett, Dave, and Alec and I that I'm excited for Monster Magnet, really,
Mhm.
and I'm excited that this record is out and that gave me so okay, I'm done with this. Let's go back to the the meat and potatoes here. So,
And off
but
my chest.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. It's well, like you said, it's been a therapeutic thing for you, and it's like, okay, well now I've been able to get it out there, and um, since you are getting fulfilled from Monster Magnet, which is so, I feel like rare. Like I don't hear very many musicians not feel a little bit stunted in a group project, especially after as long as you guys have been together. So that's really amazing.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to, Dave and I have known each other for a very, very, very long time. And we have been not like in and out of each other's lives, but in each other's lives since we're like your son's at 15.
Hmm.
I met Dave when I was 13 years old,
So crazy.
right? And so just the creative, I think that's why that core of that, like we were I was in the same room with Dave the first time I heard the first Stooges record.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I heard Hawkwind, I was with Dave. The first time I heard Captain Beyond, but really the first times we were going to punk rock shows, like to see the Ramones and to see the Cramps and to see all this stuff that was like life-changing things. We were in the same room and in the same car. So all these years later, to walk on a stage together just makes me happy. So I've never been, and he comes to me for the style of stuff that I play,
Hmm.
and he gave me the opportunity to join Monster Magnet at like a great time. Um, I appreciate that to I just can't. And I would have been fine just being behind the scenes and stopping by the studio and dropping off fuzz pedals. Do you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. But when you reflect on the last 25 years of it, it's just been, and a lot of ups and downs too. And that's the thing that I don't think gets mentioned a lot with different bands. Sooner or later, I know from my age, you're going to go through some ups and downs.
Hmm.
So you better have some good friends.
Hmm.
And I'm lucky that my good friend is my creative partner.
Yeah.
And I'm able to like step back and let him do his thing. He's able to step back and let me do my thing. He gave me so much encouragement to get this record done.
Wow. That's
So
awesome.
much that like it's like one of those things where you just don't think about that stuff when it's going on. It's like, hey, you're working on it today, the little phone calls here and there, an email or a text. And so that's why I'm excited to have our what we are going to what we're looking forward to do in 2024, as
Hmm.
well as what I'm doing with this. It kind of all connects.
Right.
And a lot
Right.
of our favorite bands from back then, like the guys in Hawkwind were playing in the Pink Fairies. The guy in the Pink Fairies was going over to Amandul. The guy from Amandul, it was like all this interchanging stuff. So, and like right now we have Alec Morton playing bass with us guys, and he joined the band. He started being a bass player with us right before the pandemic. Right before that tour, we came. The pandemic happens. We do the cover record. We do a Better Dystopia. Alex, like this is great. So there's a lot of fun stuff, and Bob and Garrett, I can't speak enough about like how much fun us guys have.
That's awesome. Gosh, so important. I mean, it's like I say all the time, it's like a marriage, with um band members. It's like a marriage. And so it has to have strong components in order for it to continue to work throughout all the years.
Yeah, and when one guy's down, you pick the other guy up, and we're all up at the same time. That sometimes if you're all up at the same time, it can be a little too overwhelming, but like mentally, but like it's I'd have to say that we feel like we love our fans. And I know
Mhm.
that's very cliche to say, oh, we couldn't do it. Everybody says that. But, when we know who we are at this point
Mhm.
of our careers. And when we're playing and we're over there in some German city or wherever it may be, and you see parents bringing their kids to see us in a venue the size that we play, which aren't that big, honestly, it makes you feel like you did something creatively,
Mhm.
and that torch is being passed. And that's what I wanted to do. It's another thing with my record is that like I just wanted to leave a little something of who I am. That's
Yeah.
all there is to it, and those songs are special to me, and, it was really fun at the time, and I'm the kind of person, like, let's do what's on my plate today. I don't get caught up in what, too much other stuff, and, I'm really happy that the universe aligned for me to finally do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I am too. It's a really, really incredible album. It's a lot of fun. Sick of You is I really like musically. For some reason that one um really stuck out in my ear initially. Um, so tell me a little bit about that one.
Well, that one was like, I always again, there's two bands that I believe as artists, we really are our influences, and then we try to be ourselves, and then we become ourselves, right? So with that particular song, there's no my two favorite bands are the Stooges and Motorhead, right? And so I put that together, like the main riff. I was messing around with the Bo Diddley Stooges beat from 1969. Right. And a lot of my love for music does date back to like the early jazz and the blues and all that kind of stuff. I loved Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry, and when blues started like changing a little bit.
Hmm.
And I always loved that beat, right? And a million people have used it. And then the riff, and I always love that dirty bass line on the first Stooges, the way the bass sounds on that. So I started messing around with the bass. Lyrically and vocally, it was a lot different. And I was trying to stretch myself, and I was trying to like go somewhere with it. And it was mixed and done. And I was like, I can't stand it.
Oh
I was
no.
like, I'm not putting that out. And I was like, the other thing is that the first Stooges record, when you hear a lot like Iggy's lines in that record, no fun. The lyrics are so simple. He repeats lines all the time. Little doll, I can't forget, smoking on a cigarette. Like, what is more brilliant than that? There's not like in the meaning and stuff. So I took the simple influence of that record and put it into that song and some of the songs on that record. Ron has always been one of my favorite guitar players of all time. I love the way his guitar sounds, and that's another thing I was able to do with this record. I went back to my earliest influences as a musician, where it's like I yeah, I can go somewhere, I can do certain things, but I think all those records and some of the other things I've mentioned have really developed me as the kind of guitar player I am. Is you're going to get what you get, right? And I'm not a shredder. I'm not. I admire guys who can do that, but I also admire more somebody who can just like make one note work and let it sustain, or I can stretch it out. So I went to my initial influences like the Cramps and Suicide and Johnny Thunders and the Ramones and the Stooges and the New York Dolls and Motorhead and Sabbath and Hawkwind, and like I just kind of like tried to absorb that and keep everything very focused and as simple as I could, making this record and that song. And the two you mentioned were really the ones that like I think were my favorites in the simple aspect of it, the
Hmm.
pure simplicity of it. Like I did the guitar part, I was like, oh, it's done. I have to rethink it, you know, it's done. I don't want to go back. I don't want to do it again.
One and done, never again.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, well, they're fun songs. I mean, the whole album is really fun, but those ones for some reason are the ones that stuck out the most to me with the initial listen. Usually, every time I go back and listen, another one will stick out, another one will stick out, but those ones kept being the ones that were really just like, yeah, sticking out the most. But it's a really fun album. You did an amazing
Thank you.
job. I mean, you're a professional, you know what you're doing, but I know it's a totally different beast when you're kind of
Well,
DIY.
well, that's really refreshing to hear, because it's like, at the end of the day, I'm also the kind of artist that like it should be fun.
Hmm.
And to hear that you listen to this record and you say that it's a fun record, that's what it's about. Like, I'm not look at like I get it with all the other stuff we were talking about, the problems in the world. Like, I'm the kind of kid that when I listen to records, I wanted to forget about the things that
Hmm.
I grew up during Vietnam. I grew up during all this stuff. I didn't want to watch this stuff. I wanted to shelter myself and get away from my problems.
Yeah.
It should be fun,
Hmm.
right? So, and I give it to all the lyricists who have all this deep meaning and they want to change the world and like it all changes with one voice. I get that and I love that and I appreciate that, but that's not me.
Hmm.
I want to like get in my car, put a record on and drive down the highway and just forget about stuff.
Yeah.
Even if
Yeah.
it's for that short period of time. And that was my intention. If my intention was like, people are going to have fun with this and like it, or they're not, and be like, what was Phil thinking? I really don't care. I really don't care at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's like if people are having fun with it, that's all that matters. I want to lift spirits up. I want people to be happy. I want people to like experience something that like takes their mind away from their daily grind.
Yeah, no, I definitely think you accomplished that. And that is so important. Even with us being somewhat out of the pandemic, there's still, heavy weights of so many different things, like the things that we were talking about earlier. And it's just so important to be able to have that escape. I mean, we would all be walking about around severely, severely depressed if we didn't have those
Yeah,
mediums.
yeah, and that's what like like say when I'm on tour, like I'll go to a museum, I'll look at art. I want to do things. I want to experience like when you go into a museum and you look at something that was painted like 250 years ago and you're going, wow. And that person did that. That, looking at like and I'm like you get into, of course, with the creative stuff, looking at things of like, and you look at the history of what was going on in the world at those times of like a lot of my favorite stuff is like early 1900s, like between like 1900 and like the 30s, and it's like, well, a lot of change was happening in the world right that at that time, and like a lot of things were going on. Like, look at what these people created.
Mhm.
It's got to be. And then you fast forward to, like I always mention, that New York thing that was like the 70s to like the early 80s into like the mid 80s. That time, I'm so fortunate that like I was a teenager at that time seeing that stuff. Like, you could be going to see a band play and then walking down the street and there's Keith Haring graffiti and there's Basquiat graffiti and there's guys are walking around with art bags, and like that may have been like, I hope it's not, but that last time, it happened to be my time, that something that creative was going on. And you look at that, what was going on in the 70s and 80s in the world, and especially in New York at the time, it was devastation.
Mhm.
And we're not that far away from it. So that's why I have this hope that there's a lot of young creatives
Mhm.
who are bubbling up from this time that we just went through, that got influence. And they always say a lot of great creation comes out of times like that.
Mhm.
The time of the Vietnam War produced some of the greatest music in the history of music.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not I'm saying that side of it. That was a horrible, all these things that happen
Yeah.
in life are horrible.
Yeah, for sure.
But the creatives are the ones that take it to a place to make people happy and to
Yes.
think outside the box. I had to turn off the news. I don't
Hmm.
want news.
Yep, same.
I can't do it.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I 100% believe in that. Not only on a global, national level, but even on a personal level, when we go through really heavy things, there's always that beauty that comes on the other side of it. And that's something that I've really tried to remember every time I'm going through something, or the world, recently has been going through something. I see a lot of people lose hope, or I'll start to lose hope, and I'll remember, like, there's always something so great that comes on the other side of things, so beautiful that comes on the other side of these things. And so just remembering that helps kind of get you through it a little bit better because you trust that and know that. So I absolutely think
Yeah,
that the younger generation is going to have some
and,
incredible things throughout all this.
and that starts like again, like another thing how I am, I'm a believer. I'm like everything starts at home. Everything starts in your area, your
Mm-hmm.
surroundings. I'm a shop your local grocer guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like support the local businesses,
Mm-hmm.
support your neighbors.
Yeah.
That's where all kinds of starts. You know what I mean? And I again, what's going on in the world and overseas right now, it's awful. But am
Mm-hmm.
I going to personally get consumed by that and let it
Right.
ruin my life and my well-being? Where it's like what I can do is show up at a Elks Club last night and see a lot of kids hanging out and having fun, right? What I can do, there's a shop down the street, and I see that this husband and wife busting their ass to keep those doors open. I can go down there and purchase something from them instead of having it brought to my door by Amazon to save a
Mm-hmm.
dollar. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like there's little things that I think we can do that we neglect as individuals to help our surroundings. And like the creative stuff is the things that gets me going with that stuff back, you know, with making music, having fun, supporting local bands. You know, you don't always like, and that's the other thing that I feel bad for a younger generation. They find out an artist is playing and they want to go, and it's $350 for a ticket.
Yeah.
Like, how's this teenage kid gonna do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I get it, and I get the production costs, and I know that whole other side of it.
Mhm.
But like, but what you can do is if your friends are playing, go there.
Right.
It's still right here. It's still at our fingertips if we look for it. We're looking so far past where we are actually at that we lose touch of what reality really is.
Right. Yeah. You have a wonderful worldview and um, ideals about life. It's rare anymore, and I think it's exactly because of that. We live in a rat race. We're going a million miles an hour. It's hard to stop and remember, what's important. Just appreciate, like, oh my gosh, one of my favorite things is going for mindful walks. Me and my husband go for walks almost every day, and it's just like being in fresh air and watching the breeze in the trees and watching birds and smelling all the different scents of all the different things is
Oh, I
it's
get all
something we take for granted.
yes, well, the thing is like, you know, and the thing I also tried to do with this record is that, like, you know, again, with like making, you know, the happy side of it is that, you know, it's fun, it's rock and roll is fun, it's angst, it's all this good stuff. And, you know, we like, again, like turning it all off, like, we're sold on negativity. You know,
Mhm.
how rare is this news show something positive?
Mhm.
Right? You know, it's like devastation, this, that, world, blah, blah, blah. New York, the guy's a serial killer. And it's like, you know, all this stuff and all these things where we are bombarded on a day-to-day basis with negativity.
Yeah.
Let's just face it. So
Yeah.
how does a mind process that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Me, I don't know. Me,
Yeah.
it's like, ah,
Mhm.
turn on a Marshall. You know,
Mhm.
let me let me fuck around with a guitar. Let me call my friend up. Hey, what are you doing later? You know, let me meet for a cup of coffee. You know, like I can't deal.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so music has always been that outlet for me.
Yes. Mhm.
And I would encourage anybody, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
something, you know, and I was lucky that all my path led, you know, and I did a lot of, you know, one of the things I'll say, I did a lot of reflecting right after I recorded this record before it was pressed about like how fortunate I've been as a musician that I've gotten to do something that a lot of kids who walk into a music store and look at a guitar and think that like I can't do that or like you know
Mhm.
what I mean or like they get that guitar and then it's something you know what I mean like I am one of the lucky ones you know and like and that's the thing that like I always tell my friends that like I was so lucky to be around that time in New York because before that, everything was Madison Square Garden. Everything was like
Mhm.
going to see, and that stage looks so far away. But then all of a sudden, people are playing in VFW halls. People are playing in these small bars. People are led that stage became more accessible.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, maybe just that, well, maybe I can.
Hmm.
Instead of like, I can't, I'm never gonna get it, I'm never, that's way too distant. That's too big.
Yeah.
And I can't play that good. I'm never gonna be that good, but you never know.
Yeah.
So those small stages gave like I remember like the first time I went to see Monster Magnet, Dave was had an amplifier on a chair. Like I was so excited. My buddy was playing at this small amplifier in a chair, playing with delay pedals and stuff in this little bar, like right down the street. And I was like, wow, this is great. Going to see, I'm very influenced by performance artists and poets and
Oh yeah.
guys, like Lydia Lunch is a very old dear friend of mine. Like to see what that woman's been able to do for her life, and she's driven and does it, whether you like it or not, she's doing it. And then like,
Hmm.
and one of the things it's like I joke around too, like all the haters. I love the haters. My response to the haters is like, then you do it.
Yeah.
Like what I do, I
Hmm.
don't give a fuck.
Hmm.
Really don't care. It's
Hmm.
not affecting me. You do what us musicians and artists and writers do.
Right.
Fucking computer,
Hmm.
stop being a critic,
Hmm.
stop ripping people apart because I don't care.
Hmm.
I don't care. You do what we do and you find out how hard it is and how
Yeah.
difficult. You go
Oh
through
my
the
gosh.
you go through the days, you get in a van without air conditioning and sleep on top of an amplifier because you're driven to do it because
Yeah.
you have to do it. There's no question whether you're going to do it or not. In your blood, that's why I respect the punk rockers, the old jazz guys, the Charlie Parkers, the Minguses, that those guys had to do with the blues guys, the Lightnings, all these dudes, and the space rock dudes. You pack your shit up and you go somewhere, and maybe 10 people might show up. Go do it.
Hmm. Yeah.
You're going to your fucking dead end fucking job
Hmm.
and you're miserable going home and you're kicking your fucking dog. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And you're
Hmm.
not happy and you're a miserable motherfucker and you're
Hmm.
taking all your pain out on other fucking people. You do what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it goes back to, like you
I
said,
ran.
all the
Sorry for
no,
ranting.
no, I 100% agree. It's exhausting. Those people are exhausting, and I'm sure they're exhausted, but it is, we're surrounded by so much negativity that I think people, I mean, you choose what you put out there and you choose what you let absorb you. It's very difficult if you surround your world with negativity. It's very difficult not to let that seep into you. Same vice versa. And so those people, I don't know if they recognize or realize that they have more power than they maybe realize or think that they do. And instead they just let it become this big dark monster that festers within them. And I feel sorry for them. I really do. I can't imagine. I can't, we have one life as far as we know. I can't imagine living my life that way. It just makes me sad.
Yeah, and like, and I don't get caught up in what critics and things and stuff. I had one guy, I read it, and did you see what this guy said? And I'm like, I don't really care, but I checked it out and was like, Phil made a cool record, but he's no Dave Windorf. And I'm like, I ain't trying to be Dave Windorf. Like, are you kidding me?
Way to
I,
state the obvious. I don't know.
with like there's no, yeah, tell me something. I don't know,
Yep,
like
because
I
I'm
know
Phil.
that mind. I work with that mind. I see those lyrics. I record those vocals. Like nobody can do that. And
Well,
if you
and
think I'm trying to like do anything like that, you're dreaming. I
Oh,
think it's
that's
funny, like, the chuckle's funny. It's just funny to me that, like, people think that that's so important that they have to
mhm.
voice that stuff, and it's like, "Okay, man, you know, I don't care."
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And honestly, the people that get it and that support what you're doing, they're not going to care either.
No, and, it's like and the bottom line is, like, I don't think we give ourselves enough credit as, creatives and talented people. I get it.
Mhm.
It's about me,
Mhm.
right? I get it, and if I get it, the people
That's
who are gonna get it are gonna get it,
mhm.
and that's all that matters,
Absolutely.
and that's what makes me happy, and that's why I did this.
Mhm.
That's why I took the time, and I thank my again, who I mentioned before, Wendigo, and working with Bob. The fact that, like, my guys in Monster Magnet and my very other close friends supported me to do this and encouraged me to do it, that's what I get.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
so I think through that, the response that I've got from fans of Monster Magnet, fans of other things I've done, my friends in other bands were like, wow, man, that's fucking awesome. And even listen to a note of it, they don't care. There's the fact that I did it. That's what I think that we lose
Yeah.
touch of, the fact that we get to do things,
Yeah.
and then like, wow, that was really cool. I like this riff on that part. Wow, where were you at with that lead? Like,
Mhm.
I was in another planet. I was on Planet Phil over here, Planet Broad Street, like, it doesn't come too far.
Well, I love it. I love it. I think that again, it's a fun, it's a great album. It is different than Monster Magnet and it should be. It's
Mhm.
I mean, obviously your guitar sounds are going to be similar because you're the one who's playing them.
Well, that's the thing. I'll
It's
tell
such a
you.
Bill
I'll,
Bill
I'll,
record.
I'll tell you is that, like, when I tried to, like, stretch out and do some different sounds, because, like, I got a ton of stuff, and I'm like, oh, I use a Les Paul on this. Let me try a Strat. Let me do this. And I was like, I looked back. It sounded like me playing it, but it didn't sound like me,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And there's a certain thought process, like, okay, push yourself over there, go with that, right? But I brought it back to, like, what made me, right?
Mhm.
What made me want to do this? And I was like, oh my God, that doesn't sound right. Like, where's the SG? You know what I mean? It's like, because, and then I was like, one thing sounded, like how I would play on a Monster Magnet song. And I was talking to my friend, he goes, Phil, you've been the guitar player in Monster Magnet for 25 years. What do you
Mhm.
think it's going to sound
You're
like?
seriously, yeah.
That's how you play guitar.
Yeah.
That's why you were in that band. You play in Monterey because of who you are, right?
Mhm.
And I know that. Like, that's why I love Garrett, working with Garrett and Dave so much. Dave will come, like, thank God Garrett can really play, because I can't. I can only do what I do. So there was a really great part of that process, allowing myself to be myself where I'm at in my life right now.
Yeah.
There's
You know what?
a lot of good in that.
Yes. And I think it's really cool to be able to, like, when you recognize a guitarist for their sound, like you do a vocalist for their vocals, I think that's so cool to be able to hear something, a song that you've never heard before and be like, I know who that guitarist is because you know that sound. I think that's
Yeah,
such a neat thing.
yeah, and I appreciate that, because it's like, a lot of my favorites are like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
look, going back to Lemmy.
Mm-hmm.
Lemmy always sounded like Lemmy.
Yeah.
You knew that Rickenbacker and that Marshall, he didn't all of a sudden start getting new gear. I'm the same way. I
Mm-hmm.
play the guitars I play. I am my influences, going to see Motorhead, I could count on that roar, no matter who was in the band. I saw them in every incarnation that they were. And that guy with that sound was consistent. And I'm a creature of habit, and I love consistency.
Yeah.
I love consistency. And that goes back to friendships. I'm consistently involved with my friends' lives. I'm consistent in my things that I like to do. And yes, I like to explore, but it always comes back to simplicity and consistency. And so to hear you say the things that I'm like, that's record is who, and that was why I called it Caivano. Like,
Mhm.
as everybody was going to say, Phil, someone was like, oh, call it Phil Caivano on this, call it like, come up with a name. But everyone's going to say, no matter what the record was, it could be pack of cigarettes. It's going to say Phil Caivano from Monster Magnet. Everybody in the industry calls me Caivano.
Mhm.
I'm going to use my name. I'm
Yeah,
not, that's who I am. So
right.
it couldn't be more personal.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I think you obviously there was a lot of thought and time and effort put into it, and I'm glad that it's out now for everybody to be able to hear and for you um to get it out there, you know, when it's been in there for so long. I want you to be able to go and have a wonderful time at the ocean. The water's so
Oh,
important for your mind, so important for your body. I could talk to you seriously all day long. I really, really enjoy your mind. I really enjoy who you
this
are.
uh,
But thank you so much for taking this
great
time. And thank
interview.
you so much
Thank you.
for being
I
so
hope I
nice.
didn't get too sidetracked because I go on my rants and stuff, but this is a really fun, great interview because I like to a lot of other stuff we talked about before, I'm very, very passionate about. And I'm one of those people who like, I don't think I have a lot of self-acceptance in what my voice is, you know what I mean? When I get one-on-one, there's nothing like, getting together with someone like you tell me what you do, and that's really, really important in the world right now, and so this has been a really fun, great interview because we're able to touch on a lot of different things and stuff. And it's always about like, hey, what guitar did you use for the, or like, which I love that stuff. Don't get
Yes, for
me wrong.
sure. No, it's
And,
important too.
and you brought up two songs that really, really important to me. So that
Oh,
made me feel
yeah.
really, really good.
Good, good.
And
I love
they all
music.
are,
So,
they all are, but those two were the two that were like kind of like I need it, I want to go down this one road. And I did all the kind of like straight ahead bashing stuff. And those two are a little bit different. And those are the ones that put me in a place to like, I remember the first time I listened to the mix of Sick of You. And I was like, Bob, it's done. We're not gonna do anything else, you know? So that's
I
great.
love it. I love it. Yeah, well, yeah, I could talk to you all day long.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate who you are in the world. I think we need more Phils in the world. It would be just such a better place.
Well,
I love the
come
message that
visit
you're putting out.
anytime. Anytime.
You know,
How do I,
me and Lou
it,
talk about it all the
how,
time. I need to because I haven't explored much of the States. So hopefully I'll be
so
able
how do I
to.
pronounce it's Nika?
Nika.
Nika.
Yeah. It's a
Name.
weird
Not
name.
like, that's a great name. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm gonna go move my car and I'm gonna get out there and have a
Enjoy
rest
it.
of the day.
Enjoy it. Thank you so much, Bill. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it
for your time.
for sure.
All right,
Talk to you
bye.
later. Bye.